Everyone talks about the sacrifice it takes to build a successful business, but I watched my dad work 12-hour days for a decade and nobody talks about what that sacrifice actually costs the people who make it. I don't remember this story, I was too young, but my parents told me about it enough times that it feels like I do. My dad had a storefront business in Johannesburg in South Africa, selling suits to business people in the city. One night, a couple of guys walked in with guns and they held up the place. But they didn't just want money. Apparently, one of them picked me up and I was like maybe a year. They held me and it was almost like a hostage situation. I don't know all the details. My parents didn't explain it in full, but I know how it ended. My dad sold that business. He wasn't willing to sacrifice his family for money, not in that moment anyway. But what he built next ended up holding us hostage anyway. After he sold the storefront, my dad went into insurance. And I mean, he went into insurance. He'd leave before I woke up. He'd come back at midnight, sometimes 2 a.m., doing the rounds, selling policies, going out with clients. We didn't have a relationship. I didn't see him much. When this mega rich client offered him a position running a Nissan dealership in Botswana, which was far from where we were brought up, he took it. But here's what that meant. We sold the house, sold the cars. My mom closed her restaurant, which was doing really well. We packed up everything and moved to this very dry, very small, semi-rural town in the middle of nowhere. I then went to school, then university, 9 years of living away from them. They lived 900 kilometers away, and I barely saw them. My dad saved enough money working at the dealership to buy his own business, or I'm not sure how he managed to get that. It was a supermarket, like a 7-Eleven type of a thing. And this is the part that shaped everything I do now. That business opened at 9 a.m., closed at 9 p.m., 7 days a week. And for 10 years, my dad was there with the keys every single morning, and he locked up every single night. No real days off, no real vacations, no delegation. And therefore, the business survived. They made money. But here's what I learned watching that. I saw what hard work really is. Not the Instagram version, not what you see online, not the hustle porn version where someone posts about their 5 a.m. routine and then spends the rest of the day creating content about working hard. I'm talking about real work. I lived in Botswana for part of that time, and I saw poverty that most people will never see. Kids walking into the store with bones visible, a cloth covering their private parts, begging. Grandmothers in their 90s still trying to walk around and buy milk because there was no other option. That's real work. That's real survival. And my dad did that every single day for a decade. And so I have massive respect for what he built. But here's the question I couldn't stop asking. What was the cost? A friend of mine said something recently that I can't stop thinking about. He said, your dad wasn't willing to sacrifice his family for money when those guys walked in with the guns, but the years that followed, the 24/7 grind, held the family hostage anyway. And I realized both things are true. He wouldn't let me be taken that night, but I didn't see him for years because of the business he built after. He made money, he survived, he provided, but at what cost? And here's what I've noticed working with over 200 coaches and consultants over the last 11 years. Most of them are repeating the exact same pattern. They left corporate jobs because they wanted freedom and they built their own businesses. But now they're working more hours than they ever did with a boss. They're making six figures, sometimes multiple six figures, but they can't take a vacation. They can't sleep. They can't step away. The business stops if they stop. Therefore, they just keep grinding. And they tell themselves the same thing my dad probably told himself. This is just what it takes. This is what success looks like. I'm providing. That's what matters. But I watched that story play out. I know where it leads. So here's how I learned to build businesses differently. Not because I'm smarter than my dad, not because I work harder, but because I decided I wouldn't repeat the pattern. First, I learned that a business should support your life, not consume it. Now that sounds obvious, but when you're in the grind, it's not. And when I was freelancing, I was the same way. Anytime I got paid well, I made sure I was productive, busy all the time. If there wasn't work, I'd find work. I'd create value just to justify the money. Therefore, I was always working, always stressed, always on. But I realized something. I was measuring success by how busy I was, not by the life I was actually living. So I started asking a different question. Not how much can I make, but what kind of a life do I actually want? And how do I build a business that supports that? Second, I learned that leverage isn't about working more, It's about building systems that work without you. See, I lost access to my Facebook ad account a couple months ago. I still can't log in. And you know what happened? My team ran the entire campaign without me, like all the campaigns. And I realized I wasn't the solution. I was the bottleneck. Right? The business didn't need me to be there 24/7. It needed better systems. Third, I learned that peace is a choice. My dad didn't choose peace. He chose survival. And I respect that. But I don't have to make the same choice. I can choose calm over chaos, structure over stress, alignment over intensity. And that doesn't make me less committed. It makes me more effective. So here's what nobody talks about when they celebrate the grind, right? The cost isn't always visible. My dad provided, he worked hard, he survived, but I didn't have a relationship with him for years. And I'm not saying that to shame him or say anything bad. I'm saying it because it's real. See, when you're working 12-hour days, 7 days a week for 10 years, something has to give. And usually it's the things that matters the most. Your health, your relationships, your presence, the version of you that isn't working. Therefore, when I work with entrepreneurs now, I don't just help them scale their business. I help them redesign how they're building. Because if you're working 60-hour weeks and feel trapped, adding more tactics is not going to fix it. You don't need a better funnel. You need a better foundation. You don't need to work harder. You need to build differently. So here's what I want you to take from this. Your business should support your life, not consume it. And if it's consuming you right now, that's not a badge of honor. It's a design flaw. I watched my dad work harder than anyone I've ever met, and I'm grateful for that. It shaped me. But I refuse to build that way. I choose peace. I choose structure. I choose alignment. After working with over 220 entrepreneurs over the last 11 years, I've identified 5 patterns that keep six-figure business owners trapped in the same cycle my dad was in. And here's what I learned. It's not a tactics problem. It's not your funnel. It's not your pricing. It's not your marketing. It's deeper than that. See, the 5 traps are scarcity, right? Even when you're making 6 figures, you're still saying yes to clients you shouldn't take because you're afraid the money will dry up. Validation. You're still building a business around what other people think success should look like, not what you actually want. Boundaries. You can't say no. You can't protect your time. Everyone has access to you all the time. Operating versus leading. So you're doing everything yourself instead of building systems and delegating. And then the last one is time for money. Your income stops when you stop working. You're trading hours for dollars at a higher rate, but you're still trapped in the same model. No matter how much you scale, you just end up working more. So here's what I built to help you with this. It's called Growth Circle. It's a free 5-day challenge inside my school community. Each day we break down one of these 5 traps, what it is, how to recognize it in your business, and one action you can take to start breaking the pattern. This isn't beginner content. Your past tactics, you need depth. And by the end of the 5 days, you'll know exactly which trap is keeping you stuck and what to do about it. Completely free. There's a link in the description. So if you're earning 100,000, 150, 200K plus, and you feel trapped, this is most likely for you. Because here's what I learned watching my dad. Working harder doesn't fix it. Building different systems does. So I'll see you on the inside.